Ultimate Game Show. This is episode 43, our spoiler cast / review of Life is Strange True Colors. But before we get into all that business, got a little housekeeping for you. If you're watching on YouTube, consider dropping a like and a sub, and don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications for all our shows like this one, our MCU show, the MCU Rewind series. We have our TV and movie show, the Cross Media Show, and of course our anime show, Anime Nation, and our lit RPG show, Stats on Stats. If you're watching on Twitch and you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Twitch Prime, consider giving us one of those free subs. Jeff Bezos is giving you guys free money to use it. And if you aren't using it, consider giving it to us. Please, I beg you. And finally, hope you're drinking water, being safe. Maybe you're vaxxed. If you're not, you should get vaxxed. I threw that in there. I ad-libbed. I thought I had more notes. I don't have any more notes. Today, if you don't know who I am, my name is Cristian Macias. Usually Ruben hosts these, but he graciously let me host a pen game show when I said, hey, how do you feel about me doing a spoiler cast for Life is Strange? And he said, great idea. Let's do it. And so I made the call up on Twitter, and you three instantly responded. It was fantastic to see. Griffin, the host of Disney Plus Us and Indie Game Dev. How are you doing today?
I am so excited to talk about this game, man. I have, ever since I literally started the game, not even beat it, have wanted to talk about this. So thanks for having me on.
I had no idea you were even playing it, so this is awesome to see. Like, you know, not only did you beat it, but like you're ready to podcast about it. That's awesome.
I'm not kidding. It dropped at 9 a.m. that day. Because if you pre-ordered it digital on PlayStation, you got it a little early. I was immediately in.
Just took the day off work and just went to play, and that's amazing. Next, a man who I've been talking to a lot privately on Twitter about Life is Strange. He's the co-host of Podcast PXN and the dude behind Thank You Games, Ro. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I, too, am very excited to talk about this game. And, you know, Steph, of course. Gotta talk about Steph.
Absolutely.
But, yes, super hyped to talk to you guys about it.
Speaking of Steph, we have a returning guest, friend of the show, and Steph Gingrich betrayer, Ethan Brandon.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We forgive you.
I'm sorry.
We forgive
Honestly,
you.
I can't blame you.
I mean, he was so cute. I got distracted.
I mean, if anything, it's like everyone in this game is cute. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
But we are getting ahead of ourselves today. We've got some stream and podcast updates before we get into the show. Next week, Monday, MCU Rewind returns with our final film of Phase 2 before we go on a little hiatus. We're recording and reviewing Ant-Man with Paul Rudd, of course. So let us know what you think of Ant-Man. Good movie. Funny movie. Next, our video essays start to drop next week. So on Tuesday, the video essay that I did on Death Stranding is going to go live. I'm going to apologize in advance. It's the most boring and nerdy video you could ever watch about Death Stranding, I swear. So otherwise, I hope you like it. I don't know. We may be doing another cross media show, another Penultimate Game Show later on in the week, but that is TBD as of right now. Maybe by the time this goes up on YouTube, we'll have some more concrete details for you. Keep an eye on the Twitter. Pen Games, Penultimate Conquest, twitter.com. You'll find us. And lastly, we have a new Stats on Stats recording later on this weekend. So keep an eye on that as well to see which lit RPG books are being talked about that week. Guys, before we get into topic of the show, let's get a little loose here. I want to know what you've been playing. Griffin, what have you been playing recently?
Oh dear God, there's so many things. I'm gonna keep it to one though, and that is Deathloop.
Of course, that's the big game right now, right?
That's the big one right now. Deathloop has just totally hooked me. It got into like that little goblin part of my brain of must collect everything, must have the best version of everything, like the way I am with dice of like must collect, must get all of the slabs, must have them to their greatest. I'm not even trying to just assassinate people in the game to like beat the loop. I just want to collect everything right now.
Yeah, dude. I just found out last night how slab upgrades work, and I was like, I could go on a trek to upgrade all my slabs, but I probably won't but it is a fun
Like,
game.
Without spoiling it, there's an invisibility slab. And it like you get it in a map, and it's like one of the least enemies in this map. It's probably the easiest slab to get.
Sure.
I have just grinded that over and over so I can fully upgrade that one, and now I've moved on to the next one, and I'm just gonna keep doing that.
Good for you. Good for you. Ro, what are you playing right now?
I'm playing Eastward, which is a new indie game by Pixpili, which is like a Chinese indie developer, but it's published by Chucklefish, the publishers behind Stardew Valley, Wargroove, stuff like that. So they have a pretty good track record. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this game for a super long time, and so far it's scratching that action RPG itch. But it takes its inspirations from games like Earthbound, and they like shower that all over the game. Like they have references to Earthbound all over the place. But the pixel art is beautiful. The combat is like it's nothing crazy, but it has some like really cool Zelda-esque dungeons in there as well.
Right.
And the story is really cool so far too. So I'm very early on, but I'm enjoying myself quite a bit.
That's a game that I want to start, but like I don't know, I guess claim that it's like 30 hours long kind of is giving me pause a little bit.
Apparently it's a long one.
Now.
Yeah,
There's so many games, man. I still have to play Undertale and Deltarune Chapter 1 so I can play Chapter 2.
I need to beat Undertale one day.
Same.
Let's just do it, Griffin. Let's just I'll come over since you're so close, and we'll just play together. Yeah.
Side by side, just like, okay, how do I do this?
Exactly. Ethan, what about you? What are you playing right now?
I'm also playing Deathloop because I just bought that on an impulse and I love it. But I'm 20 playthroughs in on Hades and I can't stop playing. Someone please help me. It's a problem.
Who is the sexiest character in Hades? Actually, I know who the answer is for you. Just say it. Tell us.
It's Thanatos, 100%.
Yeah.
For me, because I can romance him, but whatever.
If you don't know who Thanatos is, I guess he's the Reaper essentially, right?
He's the god of death.
God of death, yeah.
Greek god of death and bisexual king.
Yeah, it's totally alluded to that like Zagreus is like this. They've had like some kind of like bi relationship, and like I'm here for it every time they talk. It's amazing.
Yeah, every time they talk, I'm like, you guys had a thing, and you're like upset at him for some reason, and I want to find out why. That's why I can't stop.
It's Greek mythology.
Okay.
Are you surprised?
Yeah,
That's true. They were horny people.
yeah. The whole game is like ridiculous. I'm like, the artists knew exactly what they were doing. They had so much fun making the game. It's perfect.
Absolutely. I've also been playing Deathloop, and like it's just started clicking for me recently. Still not my favorite time loop game that came out this year. If you follow me on Twitter, you well know that I'm a big ride or die supporter of the Forgotten City, which is on sale right now, $19.99 on Steam. Go check out the Forgotten City after Deathloop. I don't know, just an idea I'm gonna throw out there.
That's on my list of ones like I need to check this out before the year is up.
Me too.
It's good.
When will I? Who knows?
Right. Exactly.
I still have 2 expansions of Final Fantasy 14 to get through, so
I still have 2 days to beat Deathloop before Kina comes out. If Kina's good.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how time works.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
That's in 2 days, really?
2 days on
That comes
Tuesday.
out? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Or I guess 3 days, right?
Jeez.
Monday night.
Yeah.
Hey, can I
Damn,
shout
that's
out one more
awesome.
game
Yeah,
really
yeah,
quick?
please,
I'm not
please.
gonna make too much time. I've been getting really, really into Sonic Colors Ultimate.
On
Oh,
Switch.
dude.
Oh no, God, no! With all the graphical glitches. No, I'm playing it on PlayStation, but it is scratching an itch that only Sonic the Hedgehog can scratch. Like
Really?
it is such a amazing Sonic game that does not get nearly enough credit for being as good as it is. Like the 3D Sonic games are very, very hit or miss. Like we got Sonic. The Wii era was Sonic Colors,
good.
which is amazing.
The
Sonic
Secret
and the
Rings
Black
one is good.
No, it's not.
All right, whatever then.
Sonic and the Secret Rings is not a good game. I own all of them. I love all of them. It is not a good game. But yeah, I just want to shout that game out for just being the perfect game for me right now. I'm probably going to 100% it. Like,
Wow, you like it that
absolutely
much,
love
huh?
it. Sonic Colors is my favorite Sonic, or one of my favorite Sonics.
Wow. Strong words. That almost enough. Sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just going to ask Griffin if he saw the Sonic takeover with all the voice actors on Twitter
I
were like
did.
answering questions. Freaking hilarious.
They do that once in a while. They did
They
it
do,
back
yeah.
when the racing game came out, and I love it every time. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I found out today that Sonic is canonically a Cancer, which is very cool. A very emotional guy, that's Sonic. So I love a good water sign representation. And also,
Funny.
what's that?
Which is funny because water sign, and he cannot swim.
That's true. That's true. I mean, there are water levels where he like runs
He
through
drowns.
water. Yeah, I mean, doesn't every mammal, like, I suppose?
That music still gives me nightmares.
Oh man. And then my last one on Sonic is that I almost bought a Shadow the Hedgehog shirt today, so that's where I'm at.
Nice.
I should have done it. Should have pulled the trigger.
Like, what stopped you?
I couldn't find the right one. Nothing was cool enough.
Fair enough.
But
it's hard to live up to the coolness of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Ultimate badass, dude. Shadow with a gun, nothing cooler. Speaking of cool people, segue, sort of. I'm dying to talk about it. Let's get into our topic of the show, which is, of course, our discussion of Life is Strange: True Colors, developed by Deck 9, published by Square Enix, and of course starring our wonderful, fantastic, amazing protagonist, Alex Chen. And before we do like any kind of spoiler stuff now, I want to know some kind of quick spoiler-free, not summary necessarily. I wrote summary in the notes, I know. But I want to know just like your general thoughts about the game now that you've completed it. And I'll just start with Griffin.
This is easily my game of the year.
Wow.
I loved every second of it. I was feeling this game the moment you step off the bus. I'm not kidding when I say I teared up the moment you stepped off the bus. Like, that's how quickly I was into this. This was a game where it's like, oh, you might as well have just looked at my Spotify and pulled out all of the songs I love. Like, this game was made for me in its references, in its characters, in some of the side stories, which we can get into when spoilers start. It was just perfect.
This is like a hipster's dream, this game. Let's be real.
Yeah, here I am sitting in my flannel shirt, or flannel and beanie.
A flannel and beanie, yeah, like a true Oregonian. What about you, Ro?
Yeah, this is a game that I believe, like, that I was super hyped for, Christian, as we talked about it on the podcast a lot. But like Griffin, when I got off the bus, I was very excited to dive into Haven and all that kind of stuff, but it took me to get to the bridge, which I'm sure you guys remember, when she's just like taking in Haven Springs and the soundtrack wells up, and that's when I was like, hell yeah, this game is finally here. I can't wait to get into it. And yeah, I had a blast with it. It is also on my Game of the Year list, but disclaimer, I haven't finished a lot of games this year. But even if I had, I'm sure this would still be very high on that list. But yeah, I love Life is Strange: True Colors. It's probably my favorite in the franchise. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. And we'll talk about spoilers later. But yeah,
yes.
Top level, love it.
Ethan?
So I originally wasn't going to play this game at launch. I was going to wait for it to be on sale. And then I saw Cristian tweet and say it had that Gilmore Girls vibe. And I was like, oh no, that's and I was already like on the fence about it, like hovering over the buy button. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'll just do it. And as soon as she gets off the bus, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm so ready for this. And like, the game just really clicked with me in a way that the second one didn't, but the first one did. And this is my favorite game in the series. 100%.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how much Haven Springs is like Stars Hollow. Let's be real, okay?
Yeah, it is.
It is just, the Gilmore Girls comparison is just now clicking, and oh my God, you have just blown my mind.
You're welcome. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah, dude, like all you guys said, that moment when you get off the bus, and it's like, it's not the actual opening, but I'd call it the real opening of the game. And the game stops you, and you have like what's they call the Zen moment, where you have to click a button to get out of it, which is like kind of nice. I can set the controller down, And they nail that in this game. Like from start to finish, this game is literally about, I mean, it's about relationships and about people, but like what they first and foremost want to push on you is like tone and vibe, that they want you to exist in the world of Haven Springs. And they set that off right on the, when you get off the bus. They do that so well. I love the Zen moments. For me, like that on top of like just the vibes in general and like across many of these scenes, like that tone of like melancholia where it's both sweet but it's also sad kind of stays with me. Like even when I'm like walking around, I was listening to the Life is Strange menu theme song of all songs. Like just walking from the gym to my house like got me emotional, and like I started to realize that Deck 9 truly made an amazing game when I'm listening to the music of it and I'm realizing that I miss the characters that I never have even met in real life. Like I feel like I know them and I miss them. And that's how I can really tell that this game like actually stuck with me. And even though I'm not sure where it lands on like my game of the year list, it's for sure in my top 5. I mean, in my list, it's currently sitting at number 3. So, and I don't think it'll move there after Deathloop, if I'm being honest. Like this is a fantastic game that Deck 9 has created. Some more general questions here before we get into spoilers, because there are some moments I want to talk about for sure. But the empath stuff. I know there was some discussion going on Twitter about like the portrayal of the empath powers and Alex's empathy and how that can be kind of manipulative. How did you guys feel about that when you were actually playing the game? I think we're gonna keep going down the list of,
Keep the same order.
of Griffin, Rowe, and Ethan. Yeah.
I thought it was handled surprisingly well. There comes a point where it's like the first time you could actually manipulate someone's emotions, like with the powers. And the first time it happens, it's a choice. Or at least the first time I experienced it, it was a choice that you have to make to take someone's emotions away. I don't think that's a major spoiler. You make that choice and you have to wrestle with it yourself. It still felt a little off, and it was still something I was a little bit concerned about throughout the game. But I think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it was more good than bad how it was executed. There were again moments for me too where it was the random people for me, not the characters, when she would just like read somebody's mind and she would just know what's going on. That kind of felt weird sometimes, that you could just read someone's mind and know how they're feeling, and you could use that to your advantage. Alex isn't that kind of person, thank God, that she's literally just trying to help people. But in anybody else's hands, that could be a very bad power. But I think they handled it very well with pairing it with the type of character that Alex is and the type of powers that she had. So it seemed more like a burden to her than something that she would use to hurt someone. So I think they handled it pretty well.
How about you, Ethan?
I would agree. I as someone who deals with that, because I am what you would call an empath. I have those traits. I don't have superpowers though, so you know.
That we
but
know of.
yeah, not yet anyway. But I actually liked the way that it was portrayed, in the sense that when she would have moments, and no spoilers, but she has moments where she kind of takes on people's emotions. Like people's emotions get so strong that she kind of gets overwhelmed by it, and that was like very real, because like that does happen. But I think they handled it the best they could. And you do have moments where, she can do certain things, but like Alex isn't that kind of character. She's not going to be manipulative, or at least my version of her. So I like the way they handled everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the most part, the game kind of, I mean, even Alex in the beginning is kind of hesitant about like these powers that she has. You even have the choice, I think, of do you want to lean with their powers, or do you want to lean that you're like a freak or whatever? I think was the choice that you have. But like she doesn't really want them. Like you can see that she's trying to suppress those kind of emotions, right? When she starts seeing other people's like being angry and she starts feeling angry, she doesn't like that, right? And the first time you really delve into like dealing with someone else's emotions and like tapping in, I'd probably call it that, or I guess feeling what they feel. And it happens for a very good reason. And we'll get into spoilers right now and just shortly in a minute, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, I think for the most part, in the major moments, the game really does a good job of placing it in like more of a heroic lens, where like it's not a choice that she wants to make right now, but a choice that she has to make. And then when you're in the moments exploring and you tap in, then it's like you start getting to that ethical question. But even then, the stuff that the game makes you do with tapping into other people's memories and emotions ultimately ends up being for good. There are a few moments that I can think of in chapter 4 that I want to highlight later, but yeah, I think for the most part, I think I would agree with all you guys.
I mean, there's a one-off line pretty early in the game, chapter 1 or 2, I think, too. I don't know, the actual walking around stuff kind of blends together for me. Where she does read someone, and rather than being like snoopy about it, like the first game, like Max was snooping and being a part of everything, like, and that was a big issue a lot of people had. And this one, she's like, I hope they figure it out. She doesn't like, I'm not going to butt in. That is not my place.
Those are actually some of my favorite like little lines of dialogue when she's like, I'm not gonna get involved at all.
She does it for most of the game too, I think, right? She's the strangers, yeah.
There's like only a couple times where she actually butts in, and it's to make a better situation that's bad good. Like
it's to
his dog.
Yep, I was gonna.
Before we do into spoilers, I want to give one last shout out here. Just speaking generally, the soundtrack of this game is phenomenal. I wrote down some favorites here. You got Phoebe Bridgers, Metronomy, Far Caspian Girl in Red, Portugal the Man, Foals, Local Natives, Soccer Mommy, Alt J, and fucking Dido. I never learned how to pronounce it.
I love that song.
Yeah, fantastic song. Thank you. It's the name of the song. Yeah, fantastic. And of course, the menu theme song. I found myself. I normally when I'd play this game, I would do one chapter at a time, with the exception of after chapter 4. I was like, I need to play the chapter 5 immediately. So after I'd finished one chapter, I would go back to the main menu after I looked at everyone's decisions across the world, whatever, and see where I land. And then I would just sit there with the menu song because it was so good, and just kind of contemplate the events that just happened in Haven Springs. And I don't know if you guys have any comments here about the music.
I just want to shout out Alabaster Daydreams.
Alabaster Daydreams.
Yeah.
Just because that was just not what I was expecting in the slightest to pop up in this game. But like, there's all that amazing music you mentioned. There's also a full jukebox with even more music.
How much did you toy around with the jukebox, guys?
I listened to every single song.
A lot.
Oh my god.
I loved how like music was such an integral part of this game. Like, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the Zen moments too.
Yeah. Like they used Dido. That song was used in, I'm not going to spoil it, but in a way that like legitimately like made me cry when they used it.
Yeah, not a scenario I usually think about that song, but it ended up working like so well, better than I even thought. And like when it lets you take control there, I was like, oh, I can play it again. Oh, yeah. And I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of just sat there and just kind of thought about things.
Another note on music is massive shout out to MXM Tune. He is already an amazing artist.
Yeah.
And I can't stop listening to her EP of the music that she did for this game, which her EP is significantly more produced than the music that you actually hear her sing in this. And it's so good, guys.
She voiced Alex as well, right?
She just did the singing voice for Alex.
Okay, just the singing. Okay. I wasn't sure if she did the voice or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since you shouted out, I mean, everyone I think knows about the Radiohead scene, because that was kind of like everyone was talking about that, because the game doesn't let you, I mean, if you're streaming the game, you have the option of not playing the audio to stream, right? So they just don't play any music, which is kind of a weird choice. I would have preferred like some license-free music there. But there's a Violent Femmes cover later in the game that's just like gave me chills, and I had to look it up on YouTube lyrics. I wanted to hear it again. It's a fantastic scene.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's one that I keep going back to. Just like that is such an emotional, like just joy scene for me.
Okay, we've been beating around the
So
bush.
good.
Let's. This is officially the spoiler cast territory. So if you have not beaten True Colors and you don't want to hear more about it, log off or just stick around and listen anyway because you want to and you want to support us. You know what I mean? Where to begin? Because
So much.
I have no idea. I think.
Death is the best character in all of Life is Strange.
Thank you. I am
That's
so
fair.
sorry you're in the minority, Ethan.
I know. I betrayed her. I feel so bad because I love her just as much as you guys do, but he was so cute with his flannel, and I just got distracted.
When he's all giggling, looking at clouds.
Oh God, it's even weirder too because I'm like, I thought about it afterward, and I'm like, that's her brother's best friend, so that's a little bit strange.
I mean, they both are though.
Yeah,
That's
I
true.
just choose not to think about that
Yeah.
part.
I think I know where we should start, and you guys just mentioned it, which is Alex's brother, Gabe Chen, which is the reason why you're in Haven Springs. And so I want to talk about the way the game kind of establishes the relationship between Alex and Gabe, specifically the rooftop. This fucking game and rooftop scenes. Every time
Oh
we're
my
on a rooftop,
God.
I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of the
Some
best scenes of the
tissues.
game.
Yeah.
I'm
And
about to
they're-
cry.
and
We're on a
not only that,
rooftop. Let's go.
it's a beautiful rooftop. Like I'm like, oh, this
Mhm.
is so nice up here. I could just sit here.
Did anyone else like want to kind of live in Haven Springs or at least Airbnb there for, I don't know, a week
Yes.
or something? Yeah.
Dude,
Mhm.
so Haven Springs, and this is very much a reference that I know only Cristian might get, gave me so many vibes of Bend, Oregon.
Yeah. I mean, of course.
So
yeah.
many of the same vibes. Like it felt like going back because I used to live there.
Yeah.
Not even just with like the road, but with the people too. Like it was eerie.
Mm-hmm.
The vibes I was getting from this. I loved it. But to answer your question, yes, I would love to live in Haven Springs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why at the end of the, I mean, this is a spoiler cast. At the end of the game, I chose to stay there. I was like, I, I couldn't. I love that town so much.
I can't wait to talk about that. We'll
Yes.
bring that up
Oh,
again to see
man,
what our final
yes.
choices were.
Can't wait.
But yeah, was anyone else fucking gutted when like at the end of chapter 1, you're saving this fucking kid, which I mean I love Ethan, not Ethan podcasting, but Ethan from
Oh
Haven
my God.
Springs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. Like you didn't listen to me, you didn't listen to your parents, and you fucking went up in the mountains even though they're about to blow it up right now. I saved you, and then
Like any little kid would, though.
that's true,
Like, let's be
which is
real.
true, yeah.
Mhm.
When Gabe gets hit by that rock, I don't think I've ever gasped louder playing a game this year.
Same.
It just came so out of left field.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just didn't think I knew he was going to bite the dust eventually. I just didn't expect it to be in my face like that. I wasn't
Yes.
expecting him to get knocked off a freaking cliff by a huge boulder. But yeah, I gasped as well. I showed Christian my reaction to it, and yeah, I was taken aback by that scene for sure.
I
Because
mean, I didn't see his
yeah.
death coming at all. Like I
Yeah.
have somehow avoided that in the marketing for this
that's good.
game.
So the marketing
market
for
that?
the game, the marketing for the game is wild because they set it up like it was a murder mystery, like someone in the town had straight up murdered him, not that he died in this like accident.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So yeah,
I had only seen the first trailer when she's like singing Radiohead and they're talking about like
Yeah,
Alex's
same.
power. So that I went into it like completely fresh. By the time you get up in like the mine area, like the abandoned place, I'm like, oh, is someone gonna get hurt or die here? And unfortunately, it was Gabe because they don't give you time to process that. Like he gets hit, and then a moment later, it's we have to cut the rope and let him fall into that ravine because you'd be Alex would be stuck there because she was tied to him. And like yeah, it's a
Mhm.
moment for sure. But I think it made it more powerful because we got that rooftop scene from earlier where they're kind of talking about like who you get to pick like Alex's kind of past a little bit, how you see yourself. And I don't know, the way the game lets you kind of reflect on that, who you are as a person, who Alex is, and then the camera just kind of zooms out and you get like this beautiful sunset over Haven Springs, and it just kind of lingers there. And that just goes back to the moments of like, it's not even a zen moment, but like a melancholic, just picturesque moment that I think I found really beautiful. And just having those lingering shots helped me build relationships further with the people that were in the game. I don't know if that makes sense.
Having moments to kind of digest what's going on is something that you really need in any media content that is driven by characters. Because at the end of the day, life is strange. You've got the crazy powers, you've got the weird amount of murder setups. Just saying. But when it comes down to it, it's about the characters. These are character-driven stories, and having those moments to just take a second to digest it, even if it is just a break in the actual like cutscene dialogue.
Sure.
They do it so well and so perfect. Like you mentioned the rooftop scene. For me, it's the music scene earlier, where they are going back in their
Oh yeah.
air guitaring on the
Yeah.
room and drumming on the floor and having all that.
Did you pick up the broom? Did everyone else pick up the broom to
Of course.
air
Yeah,
guitar?
of course.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the I don't know, I'm sure you guys did similar stuff, but I would after Gabe's death and like the previous episodes, I'd be, or maybe even before that, I would be looking throughout the room that he stayed at before, and I'd be going through like the envelopes, and it showed proof of him looking for Alex for, was it like 8 years? I don't know how long the time was. But then of course he dies, and it's like, you just spent a day with your sister after spending 8 years apart, but it still had such an impact on Alex and myself just being a watcher. But the rest of the game just showed how much Gabe was able to influence Alex still with being gone, and that really hit me when I was looking through the notes and stuff like that, and the text messages from the other orphans. Like there was a girl named Chelsea, I think her name was. If you read her text, she would like talk to you about, I hope you're okay out there.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so sad. I hope I get to see this character. We didn't get to see her, but I would love to like reunite with her. But just reading those messages from Gabe, and just thinking about, wow, this really happens, that families are ripped apart, and even though they're brother and sister, they don't come as a package. That's the one thing that just stood with me. Like, they're both in an orphanage system, but one goes somewhere else and one might stay alone, and just like, I can't imagine that. But they
Yeah.
did such a good job of bringing that story to life, and it really really hit with me, that orphanage or orphan story. It was really sad, but they did a great job with Gabe, and I'll talk about it later. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
brought. Oh, go ahead, Ethan.
Oh, I know. Gabe. I was just gonna say, Gabe is. I was gutted when like he fell, because I was like, because you spend basically the entire episode falling in love with
Yeah.
him too, and those two together, because you're like, they have not been together in 8 years, and it's like, this is the first time they're really like, they have separate lives, but they're finally coming together, and it like shows. And also, side note, sharing the name with a character in the game is very awkward for me, especially when it's kind of that character's fault that it happened in the first place. But because if he hadn't have gone, everything would be fine. But like, it was, I was going to go straight into episode 2 after Gabe's death, but I was like, I have to sit and process this for a second,
Mhm.
because it's so like I teared up a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't believe he was like actually gone. I didn't want to believe it. When
Yeah.
you start episode 2 and like we're at the wake at the bar, it like finally hit me like, fuck, he's actually gone, and I almost didn't want to play the game anymore because I loved Gabe that much. Of course, I ended
They
up
did
loving
some
someone more.
Same.
Yeah. I think
You-
one of my favorite things that they did in this game was, like, you meet Gabe and you fall in love with Gabe in that first chapter. You
Yeah.
get to know Gabe in that second chapter. Like, you get to know Gabe by exploring that apartment, talking to people. Like, the one that really sticks out to me is his story with Riley.
Yeah.
And like how much like Riley was, for all intents and purposes, a sister to him. And like that
Very
moment when
much.
Alex gets to sit down with her and actually talk about it was so amazing.
Yeah, she's like in the alley, right? Just kind of on the bench, if I remember right.
Yeah, just
Maybe?
trying to
Process.
process the last 24 hours for her.
Yeah, I mean, and then to Rose's point earlier too, which I think the game does really well, is create a world like that exists beyond just the player in the now. Like it very much has a past, and you can go through Alex's phone to like look at old text messages, and then you can even look at like their, I think they call it My Block was
MyBlock,
yeah, the name of their website, and like you can scroll down to like previous posts before you even arrived, and you go through the comments, and like strangers are commenting, sure, but you also have like Gabe commenting on some, and like Riley's messaging. Like it's fantastic to see like the world building go beyond just the conversations you're having. And like to Griffin's point, yeah, Gabe certainly had a huge impact on the community, and then to see Alex kind of join in on that, and then obviously have to be the next Chen representative of Haven Springs is quite something to watch for sure. Oh yeah, Ro, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had two, like, I think I have, well, one question I'll just start with because I think I forgot the second one. But just for everybody here, what you thought of Mac and what did you do, like, for two situations, I think that's what I wanted to say. Did you snitch on him after the fight to Riley? And did you help him when he was going through that mental breakdown later on in the episode? I just wanted to know what you guys did because I feel like a lot of people felt very strongly about that character and did different
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I went the way a lot of people went when, yes, I snitched on him because I am
Yes,
not about
okay.
to lie to your ass
Yeah.
after you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. And you started lying
Yeah.
on us too. And I was like, there's no
Yeah.
way I'm lying for you if you're gonna lie on me. Like, no way. But yeah, sorry.
But I helped him.
Same.
Yes, me too. Yeah. I helped him when he was
Yeah.
losing it, but I snitched on him the first time. But yeah, and
I
that came around later too, where he would like text us and say we had like we weren't friends, but there was like a respect
Yes.
amongst us after helping him. And I don't want to be friends with him, but at least there was a respect and there's not that angry Chen and Mac rivalship going on later on. So I thought that was cool, but I just wanted to know what you guys did because he was crazy.
Yeah, he was a jerk,
Yeah.
but once you broke down why, it made sense.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
think it-
can never condone what he did, but I understand it.
Sure.
I think it speaks to a lot of characters in Life is Strange in general too, because even the characters that are jerks, like just straight, you do not like them, they still have their reasons, and like deep down, they're fine people, but they're still kind of jerks. Like it kind of reminded me, I can't remember the character's name, but there's a guy in the first one that
Douche.
yes,
Who?
and
Which one?
The stepdad, Chloe's
The
stepdad.
Oh, okay. Yep. Mhm.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
Trevor
the-
refers to as
You said
step
step
douche.
douche. Yeah.
I can't remember
So-
his name, but just her calling him
Yeah.
step douche
I-
was so funny.
So, and then it kind of reminded me of that, where it's like by the end of that game, you're like, okay, you're an okay guy, and like he kind of gets redeemed. But and then when Alex loses it because him and Gabe are fighting, I was like, that's real. Like, but I was like, he totally deserves, like, because I stepped in and I beat him up, and I was like, he deserves that, because like, you know.
Yeah, and I think to Ethan's point, like that's the truth about this game. Like even if we hate Mac, we realize that everyone Mac is suffering, right? Like he's got his own issues that he has to deal with, and he's like in a very tough spot. But like everyone is suffering. This comes back to what Ro was saying about, I think it was Ro. He was talking about Riley. Was it you talking about Riley earlier?
I'm not sure if it
Or was that
me. It may
Griffin
have been
talking about? That was Griffin.
Yeah.
That's Griffin. Yeah, talking about. Sorry. Yeah, like when you chapter 2 lanterns, which you realize the lanterns is when they're doing the second wake because the first one didn't go well because Ryan and Mac were fighting in the bar. Like after you go through everyone in the town, you kind of work through everyone's trauma with them. And here's something that I want to bring up as well, because I want to know what you thought. Griffin brought this up earlier. There's a moment later in chapter 4. What's her name? I have it written down. Charlotte. She has the hardest time, I think, dealing with Gabe's death, obviously because they were in a relationship together. And she has this hate that she's directing at like everyone, at herself, at Gabe,
Son.
at Alex, yeah, at Ethan as well, yeah. And you have this choice to either walk away or take away the hate from her. And that's one question that I have there. I guess I'll just pause there. What did you guys do in that situation?
I walked away.
Wow.
Oh, thank God I'm not the only one.
No, I walked away because I was like, if Alex takes in that anger, she's gonna take that anger out on someone else, like 100%. And I was like, Charlotte has to work through that on her own. So all I could do was just kind of give her words of encouragement and leave, because I knew that if Alex took in that anger, something bad would happen later.
You make some good points, Ethan.
Yeah.
I kind of alluded to it earlier in the non-spoiler parts, but for me, this was the moment of grasping the: do I take someone's emotions away? Do I work with that? And for me, like, they had that line of, I could take it away, but she might not be the same person that she is. And I wasn't willing to risk that. Like, that was
Sure.
not something I felt comfortable with doing. And so I was like, no, we're gonna let it. They'll be there for you. Like, we were clearly there for her still.
Right.
But she needed that moment to be angry, to grieve.
You make a good point, because I took her anger away, and it was one of the decisions that I ended up really regretting. What about you, Ro?
Oh. Yeah, I was like interested in what you did, because I also left the room for pretty much the same reason as both of them. That I was like, what's going to happen to Alex if she does that? Like, she's not feeling angry, and in my mind I was like, she's angry. She's not sad. She'll get past this anger, but as we go forward, she like is kind of the same sort of emotion where she was still in her emotions at the party later. I think there was different versions for, depending on what you did, how she reacted to Alex at the party. But for me, we had like a silent moment by the dock, and we were just like not enjoyed, but had a silent moment together, just reminiscing about Gabe, I guess. But Alex was there for Charlotte, and we just stood there by the dock while she obviously wasn't in a party mood, and we just like looked out of the water and just stood there for a minute.
Wow.
And then I was just like, are you okay? And she was like, no, but thanks. And then she just left the party, and that could have probably gone differently. I don't know what happens if you take away her anger, but I was in the same mind as Ethan and Griffin, where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen to Alex. This is for her to deal with, and I'm here for her if she needs it, but I don't think it's right for me to take away her anger. Not to say that your intentions weren't good, Cristian. It's just that's how I thought about it.
No, I think you guys make some good points. I think that's probably the right choice for those reasons. I think when I was playing in that moment, Alex makes a comment like, if I don't take these powers away, she's gonna hurt someone, or like it could spiral and could get bad. And I think that was enough to convince me, like, oh, I have this ability, I could do some good with it, and like if it will avoid Charlotte like hurting herself or hurting somebody else, I have the responsibility, I guess, to do it. And so I did, and I regret that, because Charlotte ends up being like totally distant the rest of the game, and like she has no feelings anymore, which is it's very sad. But then there's also one other moment where Alex does have like some residual effects of that anger within her. Later that scene, when you're back in the apartment and you're going through Diane's USB stick with Ryan and Steph, which we haven't even talked about Ryan and Steph. We will after this. Yeah, you hear Gabe's voice for the first time, I think, since chapter 1, and Alex kind of takes it in for a moment, and like you kind of realize that he's actually gone, and Alex finally has a moment of like a cathartic moment. She takes that bottle, because it's right next to her, the whiskey bottle with the foosball champion text on it, and she just kind of yells. Here's a moment where she yells and throws the bottle. And listen, hold on, listen.
Oh no.
That happens, and then Steph gets up and she's pissed at you. She's like, I don't need this shit. And she walks away.
Oh, that's how she storms out.
That's what I was wondering too. I saw the choice at the end. I was like, how do you
Yeah.
get her mad? Yeah.
Dude,
I was wondering the same thing, Griffin. Yeah.
that anger that went into Alex, then went into me. Because I paused the game and I said, fuck you, Steph. It's the first time. Because listen, in chapter 2, you spend the entire chapter making everybody fucking feel better that Gabe is dead when Gabe is also my brother and I need time to grieve, right? And I've spent two fucking chapters making everybody feel better. What about my needs, right? And I ended chapter, well, I guess that's chapter 3, mad. And then chapter 4 starts, and it's like Steph apologizing. It's like, you need time to grieve too. Like, I should have been there for you. And it's like, fuck, Steph, I can't stay mad at you.
I have a question for you with that.
Okay, yeah.
Did you put the record on the table?
Yes.
That moment it broke me.
The Kings
there's
of
a
Leon
few
record,
moments.
right?
Yeah, the Kids of Leon, the one that
Yeah.
you danced to earlier.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments that were just overwhelming and like just the emotion that they had. But actually, because for me, that was the moment. That was her. Well, she had a few, but her grieving moment was getting that second to put her memento on the table and think and talk about it and look at how he affected other people.
Yeah.
And then at the end with the lantern, obviously. It's just like, God, that shot of the lantern, the mountains.
Oh, and then Diane's the only
So
one that's
good.
not grieving. She's like, oh, what's going on with you? Let's
I thought that Alex like did have her chance to grieve and like at the same time was still pushing it down to try to take on Typhon.
Yeah. Fuck Typhon, am I right, guys?
Oh
yeah.
Typhon.
I saw that graffiti in the. I was like, yes.
Yeah. I want to talk about Steph for a little bit before we move forward with the rest of the game, because Steph and Ryan, either one. There's a moment I think that Ro and I love so much that I still hear in my head, which is the moment when you meet her. I'll let Ro talk about it.
No, okay. I just say the line is that I think we're both talking about, where you meet her for the first time as Alex and you're going to the DJ booth and you get the choice to choose what record she's going to play, and then you make the choice and then she announces the choice to the listeners and she's just like, all right, time for a very special request from some chick. And it's just the way that she says some chick, dude, that just gets me. And I'm like, oh my God, I love you. And it's a mixture of like you're doing something in my heart and just like you're so sweet, and you're like, but you're doing something in my heart at the same time. Like I'm feeling something. But yeah, it was that from that moment on, I was like, yeah, I got to romance Steph. No way.
Which record did you guys choose? Was it like the unicorn one or like the skull one?
I chose the unicorn
one.
The skull one.
I put the unicorn.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
I just like that album art, man.
Yeah, me too.
I'm in tune with my darker side, so I had to pick the skull one. Give me some nice indie alt rock. Why not?
Quick, change those LEDs to red. Go full emo.
Yeah. I don't know. There's like a lot of stuff I want to talk about with Steph and Ryan, but I think Ryan gets like a stronger moment with Alex, which I'm sure Ethan can attest to, which is the moment where Ryan is like really grieving at the loss of his best friend, and he's like at his end. Like you literally have to save him from ending it, because he just doesn't know what to do with himself. Is that one of the moments, Ethan, for you that kind of sold you on the relationship between Alex and Ryan?
When you're sitting there with him and you're basically having to talk him off the edge, because for all intents and purposes, he is about to he's about to join Gabe. So like that moment where for me, I chose like I told him I forgive you, and then we hugged, and I was like, yeah, this is I'm sold on this relationship. And I love Steph. I've loved Steph since before the storm, so it was very hard for me to do that. But
I do want to ask, because you brought it up, what did you guys choose in that scenario? Because you have the option of Gabe would forgive you, I forgive you, and you have to forgive yourself. What did everyone else pick here?
I said Gabe forgives you. I said Gabe. But I like Ethan's answer better. I like I forgive you. But I chose Gabe, yeah.
Yeah, I went forgive yourself.
Nice.
No,
nice. Good shit, Griffin.
Nice.
Like in that moment, I really was like feeling the you're beating yourself up in a way I know very, very well. Yeah. You need to forgive yourself. You need to help yourself here.
Yeah.
That was literally why I picked that option too. Is like no one is your own like best or worst enemy than yourself, and the way you kind of beat yourself. Yeah, exactly. And Alex says that like nobody blames you. Like, this is nobody's fault, and you have to forgive yourself, which is why I ended up choosing that option.
I think that speaks to the game too, because like it's a scenario where you can choose any of those options, and all of those options work for different reasons.
Yes.
And I love that like we all chose all three of them basically.
Mm-hmm.
I love looking at the percentages for this one. I was shocked that it was only 20% picked forgive yourself.
Wow.
Some of those
66
options are
said-
shocking, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one in chapter
61%
5.
lost the foosball. How'd you lose the foosball?
Ro,
Yeah, that
he's
was
talking to you.
easy.
What? Oh, with the
Did you
foosball
lose?
game?
Didn't
I
you
won.
lose? You won? Okay, yeah.
Oh, I won. Yeah, I won.
I won
It
as
was
well.
the
but,
jukebox
like,
game that I lost.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's harder.
I was talking to Ro about this. So the foosball game is cool because you think it's like just foosball, and then you start like having conversations as Steph starts to open up to you, and then you're
Yeah.
playing foosball and making dialogue choices. And I thought that was just neat on a gameplay level.
There was a few of those where like the actual gameplay of the game really surprised me. That was one. The jukebox game was another one. Where I just love that of like first off you get to experience all this and look at all this awesome music, but also you really get to see Steph
Yeah.
and like understand who Steph is. And then there's just the entirety of the LARP.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's what I
Perfect.
was gonna say.
Great segue,
That-
Griffin.
Oh my god.
It's almost like I host a podcast.
Yeah, how do we feel about the LARP scene? Because I know this is a few people's
Oh.
favorite. I don't know. Is this your favorite chapter, Ethan?
Yes. 100. Yep.
Okay.
Because and it makes complete sense that Steph would be the one orchestrating turning the entire town into this like magic world. Like it was phenomenal. And then when you're playing and then at the end it turns into basically like a Final Fantasy game,
So
like that was
cool.
perfect.
Literally squealed when that happened. I was so
it
happy.
so good.
Ro DM me on Twitter something that like I didn't even think about until we brought it up, which is like the foreshadowing, and I don't know if Ro wants to talk about it now.
Sure, yeah. Episode 3 was definitely my favorite as well because of the LARP. It was so cool. And when the changeover to an actual RPG happens, I also lost my mind. The menu changing and everything, that was awesome too. But I'm not sure if you guys also noticed, but how Jed was the king, but he was also the bad guy. Like at the end of it, like he was a king in disguise, like he is in the actual Haven. So I thought that was really cool foreshadowing to him actually being the king of Haven. Like everybody treats him like a hero, but he's actually the master villain behind everything. So I thought that was really cool, and I didn't think of it until he reveals himself as to be kind of a shady guy at the end of it. But I thought that was really cool.
I'm losing my mind right now because
Yeah.
you're totally right.
Yeah, is that so cool?
Yeah.
He looked so good too in like the fantasy world. Like I just
He does.
the glowing eyes alone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He did have glowing eyes, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weren't there like two choices as to what he could dress up as? Like you
Yeah.
choose. Yeah. I don't know which one I chose, but he did have
It
glowing
was like
eyes.
the skeleton looking one.
Yeah.
What I want to know though, LARP wise, was what did you guys pick as your name?
Oh, Alto for me.
Thank you.
What were the
Thank
options
you.
again?
So it was Alto, Alwyn. Alwyn was like the popular one.
That's what I picked.
I feel like
Why?
that
Why
was
is this so an
popular
option that you're
one.
so diehard about?
I feel
Why?
like that
Because
Alwyn is just way too close to Arwen, and I was like,
Oh, okay.
I see you, and I love that. But I was basic, and I just went with Alexandra because I'm not very good at D&D names. I'm sorry.
I took the music pun. Alto is a music pun, and I love
Ah,
it.
Oh. See, whenever the Y is a vowel, I'm like, you got me. I think the Y letter is cool when it's a vowel, so I'm like, yeah, absolutely,
right.
this rocks.
Yeah, I can't pass up the opportunity for a good pun.
Okay. Yeah.
That also just seemed like
Whatever.
such an Alex joke too. It's like I'm gonna turn my bard's name into a music term. Ah,
that is actually like brilliant, though.
Very cool of her to like roam around this fantasy setting with her guitar too, and you're picking up like different chords that she can play to like do her little attacks. Like it ends up being a really cool sequence. And then exploring the how Steph redecorated the record store into like a shop, I thought was like one of my favorite settings in that LARP. Like she would like went in on the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Dude, the bar, like holy
Oh my god, yeah.
crap!
With all the
Yeah,
blood
that was
everywhere.
Oh,
so good.
yeah. Yeah.
Shout out
Ducky
to
Freaking
was a
Ducky
Ducky.
gnome.
too.
So did you guys read Ducky's emotions in that scene?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah, when he's
remember.
behind the bar.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest things to me in the entire game. Of
He's
like
just
I'm
like-
such a genius for convincing Steph that my character should be behind the bar, and then you can guilt him into not drinking it.
Oh my god,
Did you guilt him?
I missed that.
No, I was like, go for it, man.
I did too. Yeah.
No, I love Ducky.
That's awesome.
Ducky was one of my favorite characters, honestly.
I guess this transitions us into chapter 4, which I think is my favorite chapter, the Spring Festival. And I guess before we even talk about all the stuff here with the Spring Festival and the other rooftop scene, there are some moments that you can walk away from the main path here and have moments that I think some people missed entirely. One of those that you can miss is a conversation with Ducky in the bar. He's the only one that's not partaking in the
Yes.
Spring Festival.
It is heartbreaking how many people miss that.
And you
Yeah.
can have like a Zen moment with him dancing, and it's
Mhm.
just like it's so sad, but like, and that's one of my favorite things about Alex is like she's literally a lot of the time just trying to make these people's lives better. Like
Yeah.
it was so good.
And that's why I think this goes back to our conversation about like the ethics of using these empath powers. That's why it ends up being okay with me, is that she's using these in very discreet manners, just to help the people that like in contention. And like that moment with Ducky ends up like really helping him out, I think, for the better. Like I think he had like a genuinely good experience like rejoining the Spring Festival after that. And like if he didn't, he's gonna stick with that trauma, I think, for I don't know, I guess the rest of his fake life. He's not a real person, but like in my head, he's a real person. I mean, the same thing kind of happens with Eleanor in the flower shop, who's dealing with.
I loved
I was
Eleanor
gonna say,
so much.
speaking of like the
Oh,
ethics of it, what'd you tell Riley?
Yeah, I
did
think
you
Ro,
tell her?
you missed this conversation, right?
I did. You guys could talk about it though, please.
Okay.
I want to hear it anyways. Yeah.
So yeah, you can find Riley down at the bus stop, where you first came in during that. And initially, I almost missed this, but I had known, like, I'd seen like the post of like she's leaving. I was like, okay, I have to find her. Like, first I panicked for a good 15 minutes just looking for where you could pick up a rose.
I know.
oh yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
you're
like the
standing
first
right
thing I
next
did.
to it too.
Yep.
Yeah, you're approaching the flower shop, and then Alex comments like, "Who's that at the end of the bridge?" Right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about you guys. I let her go off to college.
Same.
Yep. Same. Yeah, I think.
My-
Ro, go ahead, Ethan.
I would have made that choice if I was there, but I didn't. Riley was just a character that I completely missed for some reason. I just wasn't
Man,
finding
When you
her
go
or
when
whatever.
you go back, make sure and get. She has low key like some of the better moments.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm
she's so good.
understanding from you guys.
Yeah.
I missed out on her.
Riley and Eleanor's story is legitimately
Beautiful.
one of my favorite like side character
Heartbreaking,
stories.
heartbreaking, but also like happy at the same time. Like it's weird. But like what I was gonna say was I let her go because I was like, if Eleanor gets worse, she has this entire town to help her
Mhm.
and
Fair.
take care of her while Riley is like gone. So I'm like, and like Eleanor confides in you, and I'm not one to break trust. And I'm like, no, it's not my place.
You nailed it. That's exactly why I let Riley go as well. Is that I didn't want to break Eleanor's trust, especially not after you have like those conversations when you're helping her walk through the flower shop and like retrace her memory. Like you can tell it's starting to get bad, but it's not quite there
Mhm.
yet. And like if she isn't ready to share, I have no business
No.
talking about
Exactly.
her issues with somebody else. Like that is Eleanor's right to share if she feels comfortable to share it, and she isn't at that point. So I couldn't do that to Eleanor.
It's again, it's like an ethics thing. Should I just because I can, do this? Should I do it? And no,
Yeah.
you shouldn't.
Yeah, and to go back to that bench alley scene that we talked about earlier, like you can ask her about Eleanor, and she's like, "If I go, like she'll be all right. Like this town is here to help her."
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, if you do tell her, she stays. Like that's not surprising. But if you tell her at that bus stop, she immediately leaves the bus stop to go talk to Eleanor.
Wow.
Um,
Did you play the game twice, Griffin, or how did you find out?
So I went back and played a bunch of stuff because I wanted to see how some things turned out.
Sure.
I didn't replay it, but when I was going back to like pick up all the collectibles for the trophies, because of course I got the platinum, I'm me.
So did Ethan, right?
Yeah, I did. But
yeah, I went and did a couple of those.
the platinum was actually like really easy to grab. You could grab it in one playthrough if like. Also, shout out to the PS5 and one of the best uses of the controller I've seen, because it uses the haptic feedback like so well, and it actually uses the lights in the controller in one of the best ways I've ever seen. Like,
Oh, the lights as well. That's
ever.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Griffin.
No, you go, because I have mine's a bit of a tangent.
Okay. Did we all help Jellybean guy?
Yes.
Okay, we were gonna say the same thing. Yes.
Did we
Jellybean
help the
guy,
game?
also the dog guy earlier.
The dog
like-
guy, yeah.
These are the characters that I was like, this is what makes the game for me. It's these little characters.
Oh, I have a question. Did you guys help? Speaking of like helping, like the small people, like the side quests, did you help the jogger too? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
In the previous chapter.
Find her
Help the
confidence.
jogger, help the
Mhm.
student.
Yeah.
Help
the
the guy
music.
opening the business, the diner.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
god,
love-
I don't even know
I-
some of these stories. Like,
Dude,
I don't
I
know some of these.
no.
Oh my
So
love
god.
that.
during the festival, this guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'll remember your name. Like, come by." And it's like, "Shoot, I can't remember everyone's name. I should have made more flyers. I was like just way overconfident about
Yeah.
this." She's like, "Just put it up on my block, my dude."
Yeah.
It's so good.
What I want to know is, did you guys get the two people together?
Yes.
The people that like were
couple.
flirting, but they didn't want to get
Yeah.
together.
They
Yeah.
were so clearly into each other the
Yeah.
entire game, even if you didn't read their emotion.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was great to finally see them like have that conversation. I felt weird always just standing to the side as they have like these conversations, but like it was great to see them finally get together.
That was the only one I
Yeah,
did
could you
because
im-
they included you in the conversation.
True.
Could you imagine that in real life? Someone is just hanging out like right next to you, and you're like, "Hi, okay, how you doing?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
I'm
right?
not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but there's this one storyline with one of the like a couple with the side characters. First off, there's a couple that are just hanging out, playing each other's favorite games throughout the story, and it's
Yes.
hilarious.
When he finally starts playing the game too, towards the end.
Yeah, which is essentially Stardew Valley.
And she's like, "Why is this
Yeah.
a turn on for me?"
But then she plays his game, and she's like, "I'm already here." She's like, "How are you already there?" Like, I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah.
I love this."
Yeah, I love it.
But there's a guy in this who like is slowly learning anger management throughout the game.
Yes.
It's one of the funniest things to me because you just start with him screaming at a
The book
like
or
a
something?
bank or something.
His-
It was like a
his
bank call or something that like he got put on hold a bunch.
His dialogue is literally just ah.
Yeah.
And then
Or like his car gets
ran into that
booted.
guy once.
Just once, Ro?
I'm so excited to go back and see these ones because I read this guy's mind and I got the one and Alice was just like, yikes. And that was it. I never went back to him or saw him in later chapters, but I'm so excited to like
I-
dive into these side stories. They sound like there's a bunch that I missed.
Like, they're
And-
super small, but they're
Yeah,
amazing.
so good.
Yeah.
Like that's why this game is like my favorite in the series, because like the first game is very much just Max, Chloe, and then some of the townspeople.
Yeah.
But Haven Springs is literally like a living town
Its own character.
of people. Like it's its own character, and I'm like, I want either more games in this setting, or I want some of these characters to get their own side games.
Oh, I
because-
can't wait to play Steph's story.
That'd be cool.
Like it's so good. And
Speak-
apparently we're getting like more DLC after Steph's story.
Oh, more, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
I
hoping
hope
that
so.
we get even more of like these side stories with these characters.
Mm.
So
Speaking of these side characters, that leads us to I think the biggest moment of the Spring Festival, which is of course grabbing the rose and taking it to whoever I guess you choose to romance. I think it's safe to say the majority of us in this podcast went with Steph. Is that right?
I'm the odd one out. That's fine.
You give the hipster DJ nerd to the hipster DJ nerd.
yeah.
What do you think I'm going to pick?
Wow, she takes off her headphones. I guess I want to ask Ethan, what's it like when you give it to Ryan? What does he say?
So when you give it to Ryan, he's like very taken aback, and he's very much like a nerd about it, like he is in the game in general, and that's kind of
Himbo.
why I liked him so much, and he's just like, oh, and then they kind of admit their feelings for each other, and then you meet him on the rooftop later, and they have that moment.
Yeah.
Which I love that rooftop moment. It was like, because for Steph's, is it still the same where the happiness kind of radiates and then it like makes it all the
Explodes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, this is very much like something out of Tangled. Like it felt very like Disney movie, but I loved it.
This is no disrespect to Ryan. Like I respect Ryan, okay, and I respect people's decision to go with Ryan. Like that's your
He's
prerogative,
so-
sure. But I'm
I love
sorry.
him.
When you're on the rooftop with Steph and you're reading her mind and she says, "Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me," I'm like, I'm
but
shaking on the
okay.
couch, dude.
Yeah, but okay,
Do
but
it,
Steph,
please.
Steph does not. So there's a moment with Ryan where he opens up to you and you learn more about him, and he tells you how his mom dies, and he goes,
Oh.
"This,
Oh.
yeah." So, that garden that you've been like taking care of, or you could totally miss it if you
I weeded
wanted
On the
it.
rooftop where you
So I
can
did.
weed it, yeah.
Yeah, that garden that you've been kind of sitting in and having these moments in is actually his mom's
No
garden.
way. That's
So,
awesome.
and talks about how she had insomnia, so she would come in at 3 a.m. and she would basically plant all the plants that you've been taking care of. And then you have this moment where he goes, "Thank you for like taking care of it." And that kind of leads into them having a moment, and then they have their kiss and everything
Dude,
happens.
I'm getting chills just listening to
I know.
Ethan talk about it. I can't imagine
It's
like
so
playing
good.
the game and seeing that. My
I love
God.
that like both characters are such good options. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't a
No,
like
it's
obviously like we really loved Steph,
and
but
I
this
100% will go back at some point and do that Steph side because I love her character.
also
Whatever.
just
Well,
shout out
Yeah.
to Alex canonically being bi. Like that just
Yeah.
fucking rocks.
I did
Yeah,
also choose
fucking awesome.
buy when you're playing foosball, you have
Yep,
that
same.
option. Yeah.
Like I do want to just quickly I'm not gonna rant too much, but there's a bunch of people on Reddit that have been like, oh, if you picked Ryan, you're playing Alex straight. That is not
No.
the case.
Yeah.
No.
Shut
Do
up.
you know what
fact-
buy means? Like, oh
in
God.
fact, like I was 100% playing the game as Alex, yes, but partly as me, and I was like, I would pick Ryan if I were in the
Sure.
romantic like situation. So, and he's such kind of a lovable nerd that I'm like, oh my god, he's my type. So that helped too.
You're making it harder, Ethan. Although
I love
me and
him
Steph
so much.
will be jamming in Berlin to some punk music.
Yeah.
Yes, I
That's
see you
okay.
also picked Berlin.
Yeah. Cool. What did Ro? Did you have that postcard
I
scene?
think I should. Yeah, it was Salem or Berlin, right?
It was Salem, Berlin, or the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
I chose Berlin. Yeah.
There we
I
go.
wanted someone to pick middle of the ocean just to see what it is.
Yeah, I should go back and finish those.
I haven't done that one yet, but I should.
Oh, man.
We're ramping up, getting closer to I think the end of our discussion. So there's a few stuff we haven't talked about yet. The biggest one happens at the end of chapter 4. I mean, I guess earlier too. You get arrested at the end of chapter 4. Pike takes you in, and you have a decision here that I want to ask what you guys did, which is, do you take Jed's fear away or not? Because you have to
Not
sign the
Jed.
contract, right?
You take
Or not
Pike.
Jed.
Did I say
Pike,
Jed?
Pike.
Yeah.
Pike.
said
I'm,
Jed,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Thank you. Pike.
Jed is another whole conversation.
Yeah.
though.
Oh my god.
Fuck that guy. Am I right?
You were right.
Yes and no.
I took Pike's spear away because
Yeah,
Okay.
so
that
did I.
was
I didn't.
Oh,
I
see,
didn't take his fear.
everyone's like, "Oh, you can't take Charlotte's fear away," but now with Pike, it's like, "Oh, you got to."
yeah, but fear and anger are completely different on the spectrum.
I signed it.
here.
I didn't take his spear.
I signed
spear
as well,
away. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was selfish. I was covering my ass. I was like, I want to take on Typhon. I would keep saying Typhon.
My thing was,
Typhon.
I was like, look, I just had this really great moment with this guy on the roof, and you're coming and you're ruining my vibe. And like now I just want to take this corporation down because like they're blocking me right now.
Yeah.
That's just rude.
Yeah, for me,
I immediately felt justified in my actions.
Yeah.
yeah, when I saw that like they were also spying on Steph and Ryan, I was like, you know what? My actions are causing other people, like this is going to come back to bite them, and they don't deserve
Yeah.
that. That's why I ended up signing. But yeah, I mean that leads directly over to the betrayal of Jed when he motherfucker takes you to the mines and shoots you and leaves you for dead.
That shocked me.
Oh
Like-
man.
I knew too when you were like, let me know when you finish episode 4. Let me know when you finish episode 4. Like you kept saying it. I'm like, okay, something happens. Like
I said it once. Come on.
Also, of course, something happens in between the penultimate and last.
I was like, yeah, but I didn't expect anything that drastic. Like not since the first game has something drastic that like happened
Yeah.
like that. Like the first game it was, I forget the teacher's name, but it was you find out that he's
He's the
the
baddie.
yeah, he's basically the killer and you're like, holy shit. And then kind of the same thing. It kind of had the same vibe here. You find out that this
Yeah.
really nice old guy that has basically been helping you this entire time, you know, and he has his reasons for that, and you find him out in episode 5. But like that was, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I just got shot, and now like, how am I gonna get out of this like hole?
Yeah. I remember I DM'd Ro about that. The same thing that Ethan just said is that at first I didn't like. I mean, the twist was surprising and like it got a visceral reaction. I mean, I stood up. I was like, no fucking way. But it was a little bit initially too reminiscent of Life is Strange 1 for me. Whereas like, oh, we're doing another like twist. Like someone in our town is the killer again. Someone we like thought was like a safe person, right? Someone we like even admired, right? But I don't know. Then I started going through chapter 5, and then by the time I end up going back to the bar, and we're having conversations, and we end up like really diving into why Jed did this. I ended up kind of coming around and like he made his mistakes. I don't forgive him. I think that's the wrong choice to make there. I think you very clearly have to condemn his actions, and he deserves that.
Oh wow.
Okay.
I forgave him.
You forgave him?
I forgave
I
him
did.
too. Mhm.
Bro,
I
don't let me
did.
down, buddy. What did you do?
No, yeah, I condemned him, yeah.
Damn straight, dude.
Yeah. I did. He killed my brother. He killed my brother.
And
And
our
that was enough.
dad.
That was enough justification. Well, he
Yeah,
didn't kill my brother,
dude.
but I mean, he helped cover it up, and that was enough for me to not forgive him. I understand where both of you, Griffin and Ethan, are coming from, where he did make his mistakes, and that's for him to deal with. I'm not forgiving him. That's for him to deal with. He can figure out his mistakes and deal with that. But from where my Alex is coming from, I don't think me saying that I don't think she would do that is making me think about it even more, because Alex may be the person to do that. But just where I was in that scene, I felt like I had to condemn him for his actions. But the way that you guys may have played Alex, that may have made sense. And the more that I think about it, Alex may be the person to forgive a Jed type of character. But for me, I just couldn't do it. As Rauwshan playing as Alex, I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Well,
for me, it
hold on,
was
Griffin.
like,
Hold on. I'll let you have your piece. Because I want to hear this.
yeah.
I object.
But
I
no,
want to hear yours too.
like legit, to Rose's point, like, yes, because there's like almost a translation here between like Mac's actions and Jed, because they're almost doing like the same thing. But like Mac is very much struggling with that decision, and like that's coming out. He hates that he has to do this, and then you get like the confrontation with Mac, and he opens up and he tells you about it, right? Because he doesn't want to do this, like help Typhon cover this up, right? And like that scenario, I think is very. I mean, like Big Corpo, like squeezing down on the singular man. Like it's very easy to forgive us Mac in that situation, right? But Jed had years, dude. Like, I don't know how long it's been since he was the hero, quote unquote. I don't know, like 10 years or so. I think it's alluded to around 10 years. For him to still be like this and then continue to do this, like he has no remorse. Like it's hidden and he does not show it. I'm sorry, dude. Like you have to figure that out on your own. I have to condemn. I'll forgive you in the future, but you have to face these kinds of things yourself first before I can forgive you. And that's how I read it, and that's why I condemned him.
To Jed's defense, he may have been remorseful because he really, really hated people talking about it. When like Steph would bring it up, he would like, no, don't talk about that story. So I'm sure he was guilty, but like you said, for keeping that a secret for so long and just reaping the rewards for it at the bar and everything, I couldn't sit with that. But yeah, enough about me saying no to him.
Yes.
But yeah,
let's hear the forgiveness side.
Yes. Not for the other argument.
Yeah.
he was for me. It was like I when it came time to choose that, it took me a second.
It took
because
me a while too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was like, I mean, and it essentially came down to, okay, what would I do? Okay, this guy has been like basically under Typhon's thumb for as long as he's been in the town. And I was like, is that part of it too? Or like, is he, because I can kind of see that, but I could still go both ways. So like, I see both points. That was a really tough choice for me. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to forgive him. Like, it kind of just feels like something Alex would do. And yeah.
Ethan, you're a better person than all of us.
I think that there was never any question in that.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Griffin? Why'd you forgive him?
For me, it was... First off, it was very much that he was acting on behalf of what's going to be the best for his family. And on that, I understand that. There's a lot of issues with justifying something with that. But it also came to me with this whole sequence we get before getting out of the mines of having to understand that things are not your fault.
Yeah.
Your traumas are not your fault. Which, fuck, that hit hard.
Play your part.
Oh man, that sequence was so good.
Oh my god, when you find out that her dad worked for the mine even like years before,
that's why Gabe was there.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn.
Oh, oh my god, did Gabe track down his father?
Yes.
Wait, really? Oh my god.
That's why he was in Haven Springs.
It's clicking, man. Fuck. Wow.
Yeah, in like his documents that you can find where he's like trying to track down Alex, one of his things in there was tracking down his dad.
That
makes sense.
Yep. Makes sense. Oh my god.
I thought it was a coincidence, but you're right. You're right, Griffin. Fuck.
So, you know what? Okay, so to that point then, if Gabe had lived throughout the whole game, he would have figured it out. He would have probably been one of the first people.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's why Jed takes him in, and wow.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, Jed probably would have killed him anyway. Let's be real.
Would have gone up.
I can't assume.
Would have gone up to the roof.
Now, for me, it was the realizing though those thieves of my traumas are not my fault. His are not his fault necessarily. His fault. There was just too much there for me to feel good with completely condemning him. For me, like, he is not forgiven as far as I personally am concerned. But for Alex, I see it as there's enough there where he can be forgiven.
I respect it. I disagree, but I respect it, Griffin.
One way or another, though, he's rotten in prison. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did he react differently if you forgive him, or does he just still?
He just breaks down crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question for you guys. Did Ryan side with you guys?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
neither.
No. Okay. Because I was curious if it was tied to his romance at all, because a lot of people that I've talked to said that he didn't, because like it's his dad, like obviously like it's his dad.
I don't
So I was
actually know
curious.
what that one was tied to.
Yeah, I can't remember
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. I wonder if I romanced him and still condemned him and didn't have a great relationship, if he would still be on my side.
Because for me, he basically told me, like, he tells you wherever you go, I'll go. Like I'll go. So even if
Okay.
I would have left Haven Springs, he would have gone with me.
Wait, so did
Think-
he
Because
did he support you, Ethan, then in that conversation?
yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes.
I think
Cool.
going back, like, look, because I just have the choices up while we've been chatting. Looking back, you have a few that you can do with him, like standing with him at the wake, or how he forgives himself. Like you can hug him instead of shaking hands. Which, why would you shake
Why would you
hands in
shake his
that
hand?
moment?
Yeah.
Why would you shake his hand?
Like I think it was one of those things of there's a ticker in the background counting
Mm.
things.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
Can
you
we talk?
hug, so it's more emotional. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit though about that trauma sequence?
Yeah, of
Of
course, yeah, the player part sequences.
Yes.
Yeah, those
that
are,
was brutal.
I have two things to bring up, and one of them is the player part sequence. So yeah, I mean, anywhere you want to start, because I think the hospital, I think is the first. No. There's the
Yes.
scene where you have to break out of the psychologist's office, correct?
It's the
Right.
office, the hospital, the
The
house.
the thing that really made me realize just how strong that scene was looking at that poster. And because it's
Oh,
the same posters from the beginning of the game
With
where it's like
Alex's
all
face.
the different emotions and you're in a face showing them. Except that in this scene it's Alex.
Yeah, Alex
And
is.
Alex is
Yeah.
all of them. So I was just like, oh shit.
I was kind of waiting for her therapist. Speaking of, like, such a small thing, and I was kind of like, okay, whatever by the end, but I was kind of waiting for her therapist to kind of come back in like some way. Because at the beginning of the game, if you read the text conversation, she blocks her therapist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was expecting her to show up too, but like you, at the end, I was like, okay, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
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 I mean, who knows? And maybe like Gabe is like some kind of manifestation of the stuff her therapist talked about with Alex in some
Maybe.
shape. So I mean,
Mhm.
we can read into that a little bit. Who knows? But I think that part where the hospital is probably like my favorite, when you have that private conversation with your mom, and she's, you're supposed to be 11 in this age, and like realizing that your mother is dying, and she's telling you like you have to be strong, not just for me because you're a strong girl, but you have to be strong for your brother and your dad who like can't do this without you. I think is such a beautiful moment. And then when she gives Alex the it's like a pendant with like a jade in the middle, I think it was hard for me to
I,
keep like those emotions in.
I
Yeah,
was
the
kind of
necklace.
I was kind of waiting for that scene to become the moment where her powers manifested, or like
Mm,
where like you started to see that, because it's very much that those scenes especially are, you're like, okay, this girl really, this game at the end of it is just about her like dealing with her trauma and kind of just coming to terms with it. And I was kind of waiting for that scene where like her powers manifested.
sure.
Yeah, so was I. And honestly,
Hmm.
I'm really happy that it wasn't that.
Oh no, yeah, at the end of it, yeah.
There's a conversation you have later with your dad when he's leaving the house because he can't do this anymore. Like he's been fighting with Gabe, and like it's just too much for him to like lose his wife and then have to lose his jobs over and over again and like raise these kids. And he ends up just like abandoning him, right? And Alex has to come to terms with like the fact that her father leaving is not her fault, first and foremost, right? And then you have a conversation later back in Haven Springs when you're confronting Jed, and you have you have like a choice to like talk about your dad and what role he played in Alex's life. And I'm curious to know what you guys picked in that scenario, because you have like he was a screw up. He was, I forget what the second option is, and the other is like he was, a tough guy who had like a shitty break, I guess. Do you guys remember this scene?
Oh
I
yeah,
Dude, I think I picked Screw Up.
so did I.
Like,
Screw-
I remember it was something along the lines of us like, he wasn't a good dad, but he came here, and I hope he was coming here to try to be better.
Fix things, yeah.
I picked Screw Up just because it was right after we had just seen that scene where he left, and I was
Yeah.
like, he screwed up. He basically said he basically like bounced out, and even though like he went to Haven Springs and he tried to start over, like that doesn't change the fact that he has 2 kids out there,
Mm,
that are still out there, like
yeah.
so. Unless there's something we haven't seen where he tried to reach out, but um, like he didn't, as far as I know. So, like I picked the screw up option.
Just like everyone picks Screw Up here then, except
Yeah.
for me. I almost did
What'd you
that.
pick?
But I was playing that like on the day of my dad's 60th birthday, and
Oh,
Oh,
like
No.
when you have the option to be like, oh, like I love my dad essentially. Like I ended up picking that because even though I know he left and I know he was a screw up, obviously we saw it. I don't know. At the end of the day, I can't help but feel like he at least was trying in some capacity. Like even though he couldn't handle it, he made the mistake, right? And you got, I don't know. I can't help but feel like Alex still had some kind of love for her dad. So I took that forward with me and kind of forefronted my own feelings and placed it on Alex. But
I still feel like the love was there in the
yeah.
delivery of the screw up line.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, good.
Like it's
Mhm.
still
Yeah,
there.
it
It's
was.
just also like being like he screwed
It's
up.
kind.
Yeah.
It's
He
kind
He's
messed
of
honest.
up.
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of just acknowledging that, like in that moment, he fucked up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is going to lead us to our final point here that I want to end on, which is we have a moment of healing. We're back on the rooftop and we're having like another, not even a zen moment, but like a moment of reflection. And then the camera goes past Alex and Gabe is sitting on the chair next to us again. Obviously he's not actually there, but it's Alex having like a vision of Gabe, and like she's talking out her feelings about what just happened with and what she'll do in the future with Gabe there on the rooftop. And there's a line that it really got to me that like actually broke me in the game, which is you're trying to figure out what to do, and Gabe is kind of being like the corny, cheesy jokester kind of person that he is, and then Alex says, "Stop it, Gabe. I don't need the mysterious spirit bullshit right now. I just need." And then she pauses, and then the delivery of Alex's line where she's like breaking, she goes, "I just need my big brother," and that's when it really hit me. Like, Gabe is gone, man, and we barely got to know him, and Alex barely got to know him like at all, but who he has turned out to be, and like that is so unfair. And I missed Gabe so much in that moment, and like
Yeah,
it got
same.
me.
Resident
Like,
older
if
sibling cried a lot at that.
when the time comes and they do more, I really hope that we get a Gabe like side story because I want more of him. He's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were so many quotes from Gabe. Maybe it might have just been this episode, whether it be on the rooftop or at the hospital scenes, like the player part sequences. There's so many that just like hit for me as an older sibling too, where it's like, damn, this is hitting really
Mhm.
hard right now. Right now, one of my wallpaper is like a scene from the rooftop where it's like the mountains and he's just talking about whether you choose to leave or stay. And the quote is, "You don't question it, you don't doubt it or wonder what might have been. It's your life, the life that you fought so hard to have. And for the first time in a long time, you just live." And that hit with me so hard because there's times where I'm just like, what are my choices doing how are they impacting somebody else in my life when I really should be thinking about how I am going to enjoy my life instead of thinking for somebody else. And Alex does that a lot where she's like, should I do this? How it'll impact this person? But you have a life to live too, Alex, and you should be happy with the choices that you're
Right.
making and be happy with the choice that you're making as well. And Gabe said a lot of a lot of those moments hit with me hard with what he was saying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned that line because Steph had a line like that earlier in the game,
Oh, yeah.
where it's I think it was on the rooftop. But she has the line of like, "You're always looking out for everyone else.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you're looking out for yourself as
Yeah,
well."
that hit me really hard too, honestly.
Yeah.
This fucking game, man. What a cool game.
Yeah.
What'd you guys end up picking?
Yep. Thank you, Griffin.
Like we have to talk about it, right?
Who wants to go first?
I think I'm gonna get judged for mine, so I don't
I'm
want to go
scared
first.
too. Yeah.
I'll go first.
Ethan can go
I'll
first.
go first because I pretty much already alluded to what I chose. I chose, although I kind of regret it now. I want to go back and see what happens, but because it literally, I sat there and stared at the screen for like a good 15 minutes before like I picked.
Really?
But
Mine was
yes.
instant.
That
No,
was
because
mine.
I was like, I love this town, but like the girl has a life and like she should have a, and then I was like, but she can make a life there. So
Yeah.
I picked to stay because I was like, she could have a really good life. She has Ryan, like she basically has gone from being um having no one but herself to now she has this whole community of people, and like they're all like really tight knit, and not to mention the fact that she had only been there for like, I think the game says a month, like
Yeah.
yeah, and like by the end I was like, oh my god, not even that much time has passed and it feels like it's crazy. But it just felt right to me to have her stay there. And like, yeah, I kind of felt like you either pick the Ryan ending or the Steph ending because it made sense for her to stay with Ryan or leave with Steph.
Mm.
So
I bet the hikes rock with Ryan there, though. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
a beautiful place in Colorado.
he's all
Right?
about watching those birds and other stuff.
Should I go next?
I don't know. I'm hesitating.
I could say mine
Terrified.
too. I could say mine now because now that Ethan said that he stayed, I could say that I also stayed as well.
Okay, I don't
as good
feel
to say.
so bad. Okay.
Yeah. I say, and I chose Steph
Oh.
too. So,
The host has left the building.
so
I'm back.
the
you
quote that
chose
I
Steph and you stayed?
I chose Steph and
Oh.
I stayed, so that's why I was so scared to say it as well. But I think it's just for the same reason you said, was that she has such a community here, and in my head canon is like, of course, Steph and Alex stay together for the rest of their life. They get married one day, but what if they don't? And Alex is just out there potentially by herself, and she has to start over. Hopefully, she has the skills that
That's
she'll learn.
life.
That's true. I get that. I totally get that. But I was just like, as Ethan said, she has this family that, as Gabe said, you build, and you can build that outside of Haven. She could build a new family, but I just got so connected to the characters that she had met, and I don't know if Ethan got this too before he chose, but while Gabe is talking and just kind of basically convincing me to stay the way that he was talking, there's like a montage of what could be
Yeah.
if you stay.
Yes.
Right.
And
And
that's
it's like, that's
that's
exactly
why
why I stayed
that's
too.
why I chose to stay, because I was like, this is a really great
It's awesome.
ending, and she finally has this like family that, thanks to the kind of montage in episode 5, you're kind of learning that like this girl has been spending most of her life like looking for family, and she's finally found it like in these people. And it's
Absolutely.
that idea of, family's not always what you're born into, but it's the people that, it's like you can also make a family with the people that you know. So for me, that just spoke to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No
Yeah.
problem. But yeah, that's exactly pretty much what I was going to say. There would be scenes where Steph and Alex would be dancing in the record shop, and like they were just having dinner at the Black Lantern, and Steph was like talking to Ethan about a LARP or something nerdy, and Alex would just be like staring at her like this. I was like, this is beautiful.
I love
This is
them.
exactly how I wanted to go. So stay here in Haven, and like we were just saying, that might not happen. That's just an ideal situation. They could break up maybe the next day. Who knows what might happen? But just to think that she has that support system, if that does happen, she has an entire family there already. So that's just how I was thinking about it. But yeah, I'd love to hear why you guys chose to leave.
Yeah,
Griffin,
team leaving.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All us Oregonians over here vibing.
Also,
Get
I
out.
just wanted, I would have really, really liked if they did a montage thing for them leaving too. So I
Same.
would
For the
really
leaving, yes.
have to think about it, because the way Gabe was talking about it, it just felt like that was the right choice, and I was expecting him to be like, but or maybe if you leave, and then there was be a montage of
Yeah.
Steph and you on the road and stuff. Like, damn, that would be a really
would've
hard
loved that.
decision. But
Yeah.
Life is Strange
I mean-
loves doing this thing where it's like, oh, you choose your ending.
yeah,
But this is the end.
this is the right ending.
Is that true? Is that true though, Griffin? I feel like both of these like are valid options. Like they're both the
I feel
canon
like both of these are
ending.
valid options.
Yeah.
I mean, these options are nowhere near as dire as like the first game where it's like you
True.
could literally kill all these people for the woman that you love, or
That's
you could
another
be a good
controversial
person
one that I
and,
probably
and
shouldn't
like
tell you guys.
Which yeah,
Oh
which
my
the
God, bro.
original Life is Strange, which is like one ending has another like half an hour, where one has another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think
I was fully happy with choosing to leave. For me, it was Alex has a support system in Haven Springs, and that's not going anywhere.
yeah, they're still there.
Like
That's-
I
Mhm.
always felt that like they can come back, and visit, and at the end of the day, though, they want to hunt down a dream. I saw that and was like, I very much understand that right now. That's what I would pick. I feel like I'm gonna pick this one for me and not necessarily for Alex, even though I do think Alex would pick that as well, or at least my Alex.
Right.
And I loved every second of that. I loved the attachment to music, and at the same way, it's yeah, she might be on her own, but she also has a whole new way of expressing these emotions that she's feeling. That music is a really powerful tool that does not get nearly enough credit. And seeing that at the end of this, I just absolutely love that.
Yeah, and like for me too, like convincing Riley to leave, I think really helped me convince myself that like I've grown enough emotionally to be able to leave as well. And this is making sense for me now. I know why Ro didn't respond to my message about why I left. Like this man did not want to out himself as a stayer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean for me, and you guys both make some Ethan Rowe make some great points about why you chose to stay. And I think that is a very valid option as well. But for me, I think that comes down to the definition of home. Like, yes, I agree that Haven Springs has a great, it like contributes a lot to Alex's definition of home. But I think for my Alex, home was the relationships I built with Steph and Ryan, specifically Steph.
Right.
And so I think if she wanted to go and she's inviting us with her, I think Alex would be the kind of person to want to go and to continue to grow as a person outside of Haven Springs with other people, not just the community. And again, like Griffin said, that community will still always be there. So for me, leaving was just like the right call of who I wanted my Alex not to be, but to eventually become. And that's why I couldn't wait to pick that decision to go off with Steph and have these adventures. And you get that great little scene of her, of Alex getting ready to go up on stage, and Steph texts you like, "You're gonna kill it, babe," and like,
Oh my god.
beautiful.
What?
It's so
that
it's
is
so
really good.
It's so
That
good.
is good.
You guys
See, if
made
they
the
would
right decision.
if they would have shown that, like,
Yeah.
I would have been like, oh shit, this is hard. Like, well, that's good.
At the same time, though, I love that delivery of like, this is the safe option. All you know out there is adventure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to pick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
like
man.
that's 100% what sold me. His whole delivery of like, this is home. Like you can
Sure.
make this your home, and I was like, oh, okay, Ghost Brother, I'll do it.
But oh man, damn.
That's
What
great.
you and Griffin and Christian are saying though, even before you even said you're going to kill it on stage, babe, because that's what really sold me, by the way. But even before that, what you guys were saying is like maybe that was the right choice. Like not the right choice, but you're convincing me otherwise. Like she would totally do that with Steph, definitely, or Ryan. I don't know what
Sure.
Ryan would have done. What his like what would Ryan do if you would he want you to stay or did he?
Yeah, I know,
So, there is a moment when his father gets basically like taken away, where you have a conversation with him, and he says, "I have nothing left here but you. So like,
Okay.
even if you
Wow.
leave Haven Springs, I'll go with you." And I haven't seen the other ending yet, but I'm almost positive that he does end up leaving with you, and you get to pursue that dream.
Yeah, the 3 options for him are either you date in Haven Springs, or he goes with you, or you
Right.
don't get together and you might get together with Steph.
Mhm.
True.
Well, that's nice, because like that makes me feel better, because my thing about the ending was, at first I was like, well, this kind of feels like a Ryan or Steph ending, like, because one is very much like a homebody, and the other one, like Steph, is very much like, she's a wanderer. She has her adventures.
Come to Portland, Steph. It's not that far from Seattle.
You really want Alex back in Portland?
Oh, that's true. By the way, shout out to the Portland representation. There's like a moment where like Gabe talks about the orphanage in Grant Park. And I'm like, oh, that's a few blocks away from me.
Doesn't Life is Strange 2 start in Portland too? Or no, that's
Life
Seattle.
is Strange 2 starts just north of Portland in the Seattle area. Life is Strange 1 takes place in what is essentially Newport, Oregon.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's funny because Arcadia Bay is an actual place. It's just very tiny and not a town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was kind of waiting for, and granted, you have Steph from Before the Storm, but I was kind of waiting for a reference to the first game. Like I was kind of waiting for someone to wander in and be like, "Oh, that's like a small character from the first game."
True.
Because that happens in 2. Like there's like a nod.
You kind of get it in like the clothes that you can pick.
Yeah.
Sure.
But they keep the one important reference that has been in all the Life is Strange games, and that is Hot Dog Man.
Yes.
Oh, is that where that's from?
Yep.
Yeah, he's in every Life is Strange.
Wow.
He's like the unofficial mascot.
He was like on a t-shirt that Max had in the first one. Forget what he is in the second one, and then there's the t-shirt in the outfit in this one. But also Hot Dog Man sits on Steph's drums.
I did not know that. I didn't notice that. That's
it's a little
amazing.
plushie of him. It sits on her drums, and it's wonderful.
I love that.
I just have one thing to say. I'm not sure I don't think we talked about it, but if we did, I'm sorry. But this is probably one of my favorite moments in Life is Strange, or just this series. But Alex and Steph on stage performing together at the festival was the best moment for me, especially the comedic aspect of it too, where there's like, I hate you both. That was hilarious. But just her singing Blister in the Sun was so good. And I like it more than the MX Tune one. I want that to listen to. I know MX Tune sang this, but the one that's on Spotify isn't this cover. Oh. I would love this cover of it because it sounded so good. And when Alex whispers the chorus on
dude, that got to me. I got chills. Yeah. But you're right. Good. Like there's a jump cut of like Alex, like, who's performing, and then it cuts to her on stage with the amazing.
More games need to be comedic that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is legitimately the funniest scene I've seen in games. Probably
that
all
was such a smart way to like cut to the. I was like, oh my god, she hates them right now. Like,
yeah. And she's still out there being a badass, though.
Yeah, I love it.
Man, dude, you should have realized it when you scanned the drums memory-wise, and it's Steph playing.
True.
Well, I did. I was like, oh, it's gonna 100% end up being Steph, and I wouldn't be surprised if when Wavelengths come out, you're gonna play that festival of her playing the drums.
Oh, I hope so.
Alrighty, folks, that puts us to a wrap of Life is Strange 2 Colors, our little spoiler cast review. Any final notes before we sign off here?
This game is really special.
Go listen, because people are skipping on this game because, we're in that kind of deluge of so much stuff coming out. Please play this game. Do not sleep on it.
Yeah.
Like it probably is my game of the year. Like the more I talk about it, and since I've gotten to talk about it with you guys, like don't skip it.
Ro?
That's all.
No, that I completely echo what Ethan's saying. Like, don't skip this game. It is the best in the series, in my opinion. It is the best Life is Strange in the series. So if you're a fan of the earlier ones, you're going to love this one. Alex is amazing. The characters are fantastic. The writing, I think, is the best in this series again. This is hands down probably going to be my game of the year. I'm not going to say anything for certain yet, but it's definitely on my top 3 for sure. It was a blast from beginning to end, hit on so many chords emotionally, just everything about it I love. So I can't wait to go back and experience the stories that I missed as well. Make some different choices, maybe. Probably not romantically, but maybe we'll see. We'll see. But I had a great time.
Griffin, do you have any final notes as well?
Yeah, like I said, this game's super special. the original Life is Strange is one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I love like this game even more. Like this game was made for me. This is one that I'm putting in my personal notes of like before I played this game and after I played this game. Like this is that big and that important of a game to me now. And I might be blinded a little bit by that when I say everyone should pick this up if you can. But this is one that you absolutely should. It's worth the time, and it's easily the best thing for me, to me at least, coming out this year.
Yeah. For me, this is like a game that really dives into letting yourself be emotionally vulnerable and honest, not just with Alex, but I guess with the message it's trying to tell through Alex and into the player. That I think, to Griffin's point, is really something special. And I wasn't really looking forward to the game, if that makes sense. Like it was like, okay, I'm gonna get through Life is Strange so that I can get to the next thing. But obviously the game stuck with me in ways that I was not expecting it to, and I hope more people end up playing the game. I think the hesitation is that, oh, do I need to play the other 2 to 3 games before I get into True Colors? And you absolutely do not have to. It very much stands up on its own, and I think more people should experience the story of Alex, because I think it's truly something special that released this year and of recent memory. It's a phenomenal game. Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Penultimate Games Show. Thank you so much to Griffin, to Ro, to Ethan. Guys, where can people find you? We'll start with Griffin.
You can follow me on Twitter at GriffyDpad. That's GriffIDPAD. Check out Disney Plus Us. It's a every other week podcast where we talk about all the different movies on Disney Plus. Or we also are doing an every week episode talking about Marvel's What If. And we're gonna keep doing this, so keep an eye out.
Yeah.
With a new co-host, too. I'd love to see it.
Yes, I love Mitch.
Ro, any plugs for you, my man?
Yeah, you could follow me at Roro on Twitter, and you could follow Podcast PXN for our weekly video game news wrap-ups. Thank You Games is definitely on a hiatus right now. I'm definitely focusing on drawing more. So if you want to see some Life is Strange fan art, follow me on Instagram or on Twitter at Roro RAUWRO. And yeah, you could find my art there, and that's about it.
I'm gonna need some Steph fan art ASAP. So
Absolutely, don't worry.
Ethan, is there anything you would like to plug today?
Yeah, you can find me at twitter.com/Ethan Brannon. I'm currently yelling about how good Montero the album is because that just came out yesterday, and you should all listen to it. And I'm a What If stan and yelling about how good some of those episodes are. Some, not all, but it's pretty good so far.
It is pretty good.
Thank you, guys. You can follow me at IsoChristian for my random takes that I post on Twitter. I don't even know what I post on my personal Twitter anymore. I just retweet stuff that I post on my movie podcast, Large Popcorn Pod, that goes live every single Tuesday. And I'm also on the Penultimate Conquest Twitter, where I went through and figured out what video game characters were my star signs. So that was fun to post this morning. Go!
That was you.
Of course, that's me. Who else would do this? Come on.
Of course.
That was me.
You're not wrong.
Until next time, folks. Keep on Haven Springsing. I don't know how to end this podcast. I've never hosted this show before. Goodbye, everyone.